Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those who are not familiar with this channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because we deal with everyday solution problems and we're trying to find logical solutions. Unfortunately, not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called uncommon sense. I just want to let everybody know that right now we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope and Twitter. Um, First of all, I just want to show, as always, show my appreciation for all those who have supported this channel. A huge shout out to all my subscribers and all the members of the Uncommon Folk. And I'm going to ask you, if you have not done so, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So therefore, whenever I do prepare content, you will have the opportunity to either watch my material live or watch it on the playback. So that being said, this is going to be a short stream tonight, and we're going to be talking about teleworking or remote working. Is it a blessing or a curse? Now, before I go on, let me just give you a little bit of background information. Now, remote working or teleworking, as other people call it, has really developed within the last 2 years, particularly in regards to the COVID-19 health crisis, where there have been millions of employees who have been either working completely remotely from home, or they have what's called a hybrid schedule, which part of the week they're working from home, and the other part of the week they're working at a physical job location. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to illustrate some positives and some negatives in regards to remote working. Now I have a list. There's 7 positives and 7 negatives. Now they could not. It's not meant to be an extensive list, but just to give you an example, what are some of the positives and what are some of the negatives? Also, I would encourage anybody to after the live, if you wish to enter a comment, by all means do so. What I do ask is please try to keep it from being vulgar. I do accept criticism. So that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Now, there are, okay, as you can, as you, hopefully you're able to see, um, this is a Word document, and there are 7 positive and 7 negatives. So I'm going to be discussing first the positives. Number one, what are some positives regarding remote working? First of all, you're saving money transporting to work, and that could be you're not spending money on gas, you're not spending money on public transportation, you're not spending money on taxi fare, you're not spending money on Uber or Lyft or any other means of conveyance to get from point A to point B. If you're working remotely, you're working out of the confines of your home. That's the first positive. The second positive is a relaxed dress code. Basically, You can dress whatever fashion that you wish. I mean, if you wish, you can even wear your pajamas. I would not recommend you wear pajamas when you have a Zoom meeting. Just something to think about. Another positive is you're working under little or no supervisor. And what do I mean by that? In other words, you have your assignments for the day. You're allowed to do your assignments at the pace that you're able to complete. And you don't have a supervisor constantly looking at you, micromanaging your work. Okay. Another positive, it may create a relaxing environment. Now, let me explain to you what I mean by that. First of all, when I mean a relaxing environment, first of all, you're not worrying about making sure that you leave your apartment to get to the mode of transportation, and you don't have to deal with the traffic. You don't have to deal with other passengers. Um, the fact of the matter is, you should be more relaxed. Now, another positive, and this is particularly true for those um, who could be adversely affected by COVID-19, is limits your exposure to COVID-19. Um, because basically, once you're working remotely, you're not going outside, okay? And if you do go outside, well, chances are, well, you're going to take necessary precautions, which is make sure that you have a face covering that covers your nose and mouth completely, practice social distancing, making sure that you wash your hands thoroughly for 20 seconds or have hand sanitizer. Now, let's bear in mind that there might be different rules and regulations and guidelines in regards to COVID-19 depending on the municipality that you reside in. Another positive is you have remote access to your workstation. So either through a laptop that your employer has given you with remote access to your workstation, or you use your own personal device and you are able to gain access to your workstation. And then another positive, avoids distraction from annoying coworkers. Now let me explain what that means. Um, at times we got to deal with coworkers who have loud conversation on the telephone, um, laughing excessively, or they have the radio on, or they're doing things that could cause a distraction. That is what I mean by um, annoying coworkers. Now we're going to discuss some of the negatives. Number one, you are at the mercy of slow or interrupted internet service. Now, we all know for a fact within several of my streams, I have had experienced difficulty with my Wi Fi connection. And of course, Denise Gonzalez, my cyber daughter, had seen fit to make me the butt of a joke in regards to my Wi-Fi situation, talking about that I had purchased my equipment going back to when Obama was president, and that I purchased my equipment with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So far, I'm happy to say it seems like I resolved that issue. Okay, so that's one negative. Another negative is possible limited access to technical support. Now, let me explain to you what that means by that. On any given day, your access to your workstation remotely can be disruptive for many factors. It could be something wrong with the device that you're using. It could be something problem with the Wi-Fi connection. It could be whether it could be many factors which limit your access to technical support. Now, what happens is many times trying to reach technical support can be a challenge because many people are working remotely. And then what happens is usually what happens is you have to send an email. Now, if you're not able to send an email, then what you'll need to do is you need to contact your supervisor and inform your supervisor that you're having problem with your device, which means then your supervisor will have to contact technical support. And sometimes contacting technical support is as easy as trying to gain access to the White House. Now, another possible negative: increased distractions from outside inside. Let me explain to you what that means. Um, when I'm talking about outside distraction, I'm talking about the noise from outside, whether it be dogs barking, whether it be people arguing, whether it be people mowing the lawn, whether it be people doing groundwork. Uh, these are examples of outside distraction. Now, let me give you some examples of inside distraction. Um, let's say you're at your workstation, and for some reason your child is home from school, and children, being what they are, sometimes they make a lot of noise. And you could be in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and you have children making noises, and you have other people hearing the, the background noises, or it could be a dog barking, or it could be your neighbors from across the hallway that's having a lot of conversation. These are examples of inside distractions. Another drawback is possible isolation from coworkers. Um, one thing that we have when we are working at a physical location, we were able to have communications with our coworkers. We can ask them questions. We can get feedback. We can ask for assistance. Um, Things that are maybe they needed their advice on a solution and what have you. Working remotely, that limits that. And you may not always are able to reach your coworkers because they're busy or you don't have their contact numbers. Another negative is increased stress and pressure for loved ones. Now, let me explain what do I mean by that. Within the last 2 years, particularly in 2020, when um, many people have to work from home, um, sometimes it causes friction with loved ones because you're seeing them every waking moment without a distraction or without a diversion. And sometimes we all need a break from loved ones. It doesn't mean that we don't love them. It's just that sometimes we just need a break. Okay, and unfortunately, there have been documented cases where uh, there have been increased stress um, because of this, and also unfortunately, there have been cases of domestic violence. And what has happened is conflicts between significant others gets heightened and become worse. Um, another negative is some may lose the inability to interact with others. Now, I'm going to give you an example of my situation. Some of you know that I am a municipal employee with the city of New York. Now, for an 18-month period, I and 80,000 municipal employees, we work remotely. Um, Now, what happened was you have certain employees which would be called a hybrid remote schedule. And when I mean a hybrid remote schedule, is that certain days out of the week I work remotely from home, and certain days out of the week I will physically report to a work location. And then you have those who work remotely from home full time. Um, with some people, they may lose the inability to interact because of the isolation involved. And the final negative, that some people may become completely dependent on remote working. Now, this might sound a little controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. The whole concept with remote working, at least as far as municipal employees, the whole purpose behind that is to provide an environment where the exposure to COVID-19 um, was limited because you're not reporting to a work location, you were reporting home. And as we speak, we still have some municipal employees who are working remotely from home because they have been granted what's called reasonable accommodations, meaning that certain individuals who have particularly health concerns, which if they were to go outside and report to a physical work location, um, they could be exposing themselves to COVID-19. Unfortunately, you have people who've gotten so used to remote working that they fail to understand that the days will come where remote working, with the exception of a few, is going to end. Now, again, these are just a list of positives and a list of negatives. It's not meant to be an extensive list. It could be other things. Now, after the video, if you wish to comment, make a comment which are some positive or some negatives regarding remote working, by all means do so. And what we're going to do is we're going to park it here. Okay. So, oops. So, just the whole point of this stream is to give you an idea, a perspective as far as remote working. There are positives and there are negatives. Okay, Also, it also depends on what is the nature of the job that you do, that you are performing. It also has to do with what is your mindset. So these are things to take into consideration. Okay. Now I understand that most people are going to be watching this on the playback, which is perfectly fine. Okay. And I understand that some people, this may not be the most exciting stream possible, but the whole point is to give you food for thought. Okay. Now I'm going to give you my point of view when it comes to remote working. Um, it's not meant for everybody, but for those who are able to work under little or virtually no supervision, those that are able to work in an environment where um, there is minimal distractions. And if you wish to try to limit your exposure to COVID 19, um, it may be a good thing. But be mindful, not all employers provide this option. And sometimes we can get a little belligerent into why we're not granted the ability to work remotely from home. It has to do with the employers and the needs of the employers. So I just want everyone to take that into consideration. Um, Now, let me just give you a rundown what's going to be happening um, as far as next week's streams. I'm going to be doing a live call-in this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the topic that we're going to be discussing is why is it so hard to date single parents? Now, the reason why we're having this discussion, it is it is due to the fact that there are many single parents out there. Okay. Now, when we think of single parents, we naturally think about single mothers. And to be perfectly fair, that's the majority of them. But there's also single fathers. So there are certain situations when both single mothers and single fathers deal with. So we're going to be having a discussion. What I will do is I'm going to be sending, of course, I'm going to send out the link to the to the usual people that you send out the link. I do hope that some of the single parents that watch the stream will participate so we can get their perspective on the challenges that single parents have to deal with in order to date. Because the fact of the matter is this. First of all, you have to examine these individuals very well before I even think about developing a romantic relationship. And then there's the issue of at some point when the relationship gets serious, to introduce them to the children. And there could be issues involved with that, particularly if they're young children. And then this causes the possible issues with the what I call the non-custodial parent. And when I mean the non-custodial parents, I'm referring to the baby mamas and the baby daddies. And sometimes the baby daddies and the baby mamas can cause a great deal of problem within the relationship for multiple reasons. So we're going to be having, of course, a serious discussion. And we can disagree. The thing is, let us be agreeable when we disagree. There are some people who will never consider dating a single parent for multiple reasons, and that's perfectly fine. That's fair. Okay. Now, before I wrap this up, one thing I do want to address, and that has to do with passing the torch to the younger generations. Some people might think that I'm against it or I have reservations. No, I don't have a problem, because the reality is this. I'm going to be 60 years old in 5 months. And pretty soon, sooner or later, I'm going to retire. And the fact of the matter is, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and other generations is going to have to pick up the baton. Okay? And I'm sure that there are many great millennials out there that will do a fine job and will make us proud. My if I say bone of contention, that every generation we have to learn all what we know from the previous generation. Okay, and that's something that baby boomers had to deal with when we were in the age of the millennials. The previous generation taught us what we need to know, and they passed the baton to us. Now it's getting to the point when we need to pass the baton to millennials and the Gen Z people. But the fact of the matter is this: they need to be prepared and they need to be ready, meaning they need to be taught. And it's not a put down on millennials. It's just that I want certain individuals to bear in mind that no one is born and good evening, Moon Chaser. It is a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to whenever you do post any information, any material. I will do my best to try to make my presence felt. Um, but thank you anyway for popping in. So it's part of the growth process. The older generation teaches the younger generation how to do things, and then that generation teaches the next generation. That's all. No one is born knowing everything. Okay. A parent teaches a child to do many things. That's my only point. That's the only point I'm trying to raise with certain millennials, is that yes, we will pass the baton. You just need to be prepared. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to wrap this up because this is meant to be a short video. Now I'm going to do a short video on Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. I have not thought about what's going to be the topic, but it's going to be interesting nevertheless. So I'm going to ask again, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notifications to all. So therefore, whenever I do prepare content, you will have the opportunity to watch it live or to watch it on the playback. I just want to again show my appreciation to all the people that's been supporting me. And there's been quite a large group of people. People like Moon Chaser, people like Melanated Night, people like Denise, the 18th Letter, the Intro Boricua, Morena Redes, Fulano La Cubana, Christina, JS, The Unknown, True Teacher, and Brotep. The fact of the matter is because of people like you, I have achieved what success I have. And the fact that I have, thanks to you, I have 61 subs. So I just want to let everybody know that I really do appreciate the love and support that you've given to this channel. And I will continue to do what I can to provide quality content. So that being said, I'm going to close the same way that I always close. Do not let the errors of the past damage your future. And we must do everything possible to minimize our contact with a mentally or intellectually challenged. Because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by their stupidity and acid insanity. That being said, this has been a short episode of Uncommon Sense, and I wish you a pleasant good night. Take care and peace.
Be strong. Be strong.